was like this old German guy who loved to think about this stuff. So for Jung, the goal for all of this is to go through individuation, which is this wholeness, where your consciousness and your unconsciousness come together in your whole. There's no longer like this divided self with the shadow, the darkness. It's like where you're aware of it and you can bring it together. So Mathieu stated that characteristic of individuation is the process of strengthening, differentiating, and assimilating, integrating into consciousness the various non-ego parts of the psyche. So, like I said, the shadow, the persona, those masks. I like to think of Batman when I think of X. He's always wearing that mask. I just had to throw that in there. The non-dominant attitude and functions of the animus and anima. So becoming aware of these, becoming of what women your view types of men are, and men your view for women, and your shadow self, and becoming whole would be individual. There's usually two parts, earlier on in your life when you're finding meaning, and then about that midlife crisis time where you're looking back on it and reflecting. And that's usually kind of when others see individuation. There can also be these external figures that may challenge the individual's growth. It may challenge the negative or positive emotions that the individual feels. So if you guys have supervisors in here, yeah, maybe, some of you are nodding, the ones that maybe confront you and you really don't like it, they're challenging you. That's really what it is. They're challenging you to become more aware of what you don't see. This was my supervisor, and she challenged me all the time. So, and what's interesting is Jung went through his own process of individuation, because he said that why is he going to make his clients do it if he's not willing to go through it himself? He, as a counselor, wanted to become more aware of that part of himself in order to help his clients. And in his books, he said it totally sucked. He didn't like it at all. It was this really hard experience, but it was so worth it in the end. So it is emotional, and it's filled with this desire to seek change. The pain and distress takes place when the individual realizes that this change that they've idealized and they want to go through really means that you have to face the negative crap in your life and of your personality. And that really sucks, but sometimes you have to face the negative to grow and become uncomfortable with it. So, the person seeking individuation may see glimpses of the self through dreams, which will help provide meaning and help the individual endure the journey in the rigorous moments. So often Jung would have these like crazy dreams of hope. It's also kind of in The Hobbit and the other book. But really dreams are supposed to kind of keep you on track, to help you not give up, to give you that hope. So the benefits is emotional growth, self-awareness, and finding a meaning, and really victory over your inner battles to feel really grounded and to know yourself. But it's not a fun process from what Jung has shared. Okay. So now this kind of gets more into what my project is. I know those terms are all kind of really confusing, and it took me like hours of reading Jung and reading how-to guides on Jung to fully understand it, so I know it is challenging. But where I really am focusing is the hero myth, so like the hero journey, which from Joseph Campbell really transcends all cultures and generations. Like even in the earliest times, there was a story of this hero who no one thought could be a hero, who embarked on this journey, proved everyone wrong, and came back with what he learned, or he or she. So like, for example, Star Wars, right? I've only seen one movie of Star Wars, so I can't give you too much info on that one. But Harry Potter, like, he goes through so much, right? He goes through all these adventures, and Dumbledore's kind of there, and then kind of not there, which is kind of what we're going to get into. So really, like, these stories of this hero figure really do encompass all cultures, generations, way back in time, and they're just told in different ways. And so it just holds great significance as the hero figure because they have power and strength. So Jung described in the beginning exists a figure who is weak, which in a way symbolizes this birth, who is matched with a strong figure. So for like Harry Potter, it's Dumbledore, right? For Bilbo, it's Gandalf. I'm not going to go into Star Wars, sorry, but that's what it is. Because I don't want to get it wrong. I only know Darth Vader really in that one. So, so they help them enable the hero figure. So the symbolic meaning of these hero figures are a representative of the psyche as a whole. So as they're going through these journeys, they're becoming more aware of themselves going through this process of individuation and gaining this wholeness. So the stronger figure, so like Gandalf, Dumbledore, supports the hero, which is symbolic of the personal ego, with the strength it needs. So Jung stated that the purpose of the hero's journey was for the development of the ego consciousness and an increase in self-awareness. So for that idea of wholeness. This is kind of where we get to the fun stuff. So what I did for my project was I took The Hobbit, not the movie because it's very inaccurate. I don't know if you guys have read the book, but I took the book and I took the two princesses of Barmere book and I coded them. So looking for like really important terms that really stood out or themes. And then we spent one Saturday just coding it and going over the patterns. So what we found was the journey quest. It kind of goes through this pattern we've noticed in a lot of hero journeys, but especially the two books that I looked at. The Life is Good, I think. So we're going to go more in depth into this, but you know, the hero figure who's not a hero yet is just chilling, right? They think life is good. They're really enjoying themselves. They don't see the need to go out and do anything more. So I guess a lot of you might have experienced this too when you joined the program and you thought you kind of already had the skills and life was great and this was going to be an easy ride. So then enters the wizard or your supervisor, and there's like this ambiguity, like, what? You want me to do what? Go on this adventure? I don't really know how I feel about that. But then, you know, they tie you in, and you know, like, this says, sure, rock my world with me this one. So they're invested, right? They're going to go on this journey. So then, what I've noticed, there was a baby adventure where you're kind of getting your toes wet. So, quick question, does rehab have to do 208?
Kind of a version.
You have a version of 208? So it's kind of like your version of your practicum, right? Where you're getting your toes a little wet with your clients, you're seeing what it feels like. So then, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, Gandalf bails, so your supervisor's like, peace out, you can do this, right? I see some head nodding when you really need them, they're not there. If you're behind the mirror, you're looking at the mirror like, come on, let me out. They're not going to save you. So your supervisor bails, then you're like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? You go on a bigger adventure, boom, Gandalf comes back and it's the big adventure, and then you go home and it's like, now what? So we're going to go more in depth, but this is kind of our coding process. Yeah, so we'll go more in depth with that. The other board we came up with is we found some light and dark themes. I don't know if I really have a whole lot of time to go in depth with this today, but it was just really cool. There was a lot of shadow imagery and dusk, dark, and dreams, and it kind of coincides with what we were talking about earlier with Yoon, is these shadows that are always present, and finding that you know, anything can really happen in these shadows. There's the dusk, which is the rest before the unknown. The dark is usually where all the scary stuff happens, right? So like for Bilbo, those huge spiders. Have you guys read the book in here? No? Yes, okay. I'm like just talking then. But there's these huge spiders that come out in the dark and that go after Bilbo and the other dwarves. So anyways, the dark usually withholds the adventures that aren't as much fun for them. And then dreams is when they kind of have this moment of, you can do this, kind of that encouragement and hope. And there was this other really cool element, which hopefully we'll get more time to go into, where really is this idea of magic and shadows. So for Bilbo, he has this magical ring, right? But even when he's in the shadows, they can still see a small shadow of his. So it's kind of like this idea of he's using the ring to escape maybe some of his responsibility of trusting himself to do it on his own through this pattern or this process of individuation. But even if taking the easy way out by using this ring, they can still see his light shadow, and they can like track him and follow him and all that fun stuff. But we'll get more into that. So this is just kind of the process of the coding that was really fun. I thought it was fun. So now we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to break down the journey for the Hobbit. So stage one was that comfort. So Bilbo's chilling, he's smoking his pipe, he's really enjoying himself. He says that, you know, in the Shire, that people are very respectable folk, they don't go on adventures, talks about how there was maybe this one long lost aunt who went on some adventures, and the family doesn't like to talk about her. Like, you know, it's just, she's one of those family members that you don't bring up. But anyways, he's just really happy there, and then Gandalf comes in, and he enters with this promise of an adventure. He's like, hey,